Okay, so you know Madame Web is bad. You knew the moment you watched the trailer. You knew when you saw the lead actress Dakota Johnson saying that she didn't even know how the movie looked because it was mostly filmed on a blue screen. You knew when you saw these interviews and no one involved with this movie seems to care about it. But despite all of this, it is somehow worse than you are thinking. It's not bad. It's awful. The trailer misled you severely. For example, you might think that these girls have spider powers in the movie.
Good guess, but actually no.
The writing is so stilted, it's hurricane-proof. A fleet of trucks couldn't dump as much info as this movie is dumping. The hackery of this writer's room is a deforestation risk. Sometimes people joke that LaCroix is like drinking liquid static while someone shouts the name of a fruit in a different room. Well, Madame Web is like watching stock footage of New York City while someone outside the theater shouts, "Spider-Man!" So you kind of get the feeling that they're connected. The only good thing about this is the laughs that we can now have at his expense. Obviously, this is going to be spoilery because I can't fully express the level of large language modeling that was involved in this script without using examples. And I want to allay any curiosity that you might have that would make you want to waste your time and money seeing this. Hey, in return, if you could do me a solid, thwip that like button. All right, let's hit the high points, starting right from the jump. Dakota's mom is a researcher in the Peruvian Amazon. The bad guy starts a conversation just to confirm that they are indeed looking for an elusive spider that has healing properties, special peptides, because the writers think the word peptide sounds science-y. Also, this lady is pregnant. Foreshadowing! Also, there are myths about people who live in the jungle, and the spider gives them superpowers. This is all just natural conversation between two people who have been working together for a really long time. Twist! The guy wants to steal the spider. He's a bad guy. No sooner does he come back to camp to secretly take pictures of her journal, but she runs into camp with a jar containing the worst CGI spider that you've ever seen in your life. Bad guy kills everyone, shoots the lady stealing the spider, then, shocker, the spider people are real. They come down from the trees and take the dying woman to a special place and let a spider bite her to heal her, I guess. She dies, though, just as she is giving birth. They jam all of that into about 2 minutes of extremely normal and smooth events and dialogue. So much of the dialogue is this way. It's people who have known each other for a really long time exchanging basic details about themselves, like her partner Ben explaining that being a paramedic is better than being in the army, but he's glad to be home again in Queens. Oh, then Dakota reminds her coworker that she was a foster kid, but if you didn't get it, she goes home to her cat and tells it, "We strays gotta stick together." Almost every conversation is just an obscure fact that the character is saying about themselves that will help us understand the very next scene. When it's not longtime friends, it's people meeting for the first time, doing a full backstory exchange like it's session 0 and their journey is starting in a tavern. And yes, Dakota is a literal cat lady with 0 social skills. She saves a woman's life, and the woman's son makes a thank you drawing, and she is painfully awkward and can't accept a drawing from a kid? They really want you to know she's an outsider.
Okay, awkward.
Now, the inciting event is her almost drowning, which somehow activates her latent future-seeing spider powers that were passed through the placenta from her mom's spider bite. She starts getting visions, but she doesn't act on them, and a coworker dies. Then she's at home, mourning said coworker, and has another time blip thing where a bird dies against her window, but A Christmas Carol is on TV, and Scrooge wonders aloud in the background if the events are what will be or what might be. That's the kind of writing that we're talking about. She opens the window and the bird flies in and out, unharmed. But she will still be confused by these visions and how they work for like the next 45 minutes of the movie. Now, before we get to the stupid teenagers, we need to get back to the bad guy that doesn't belong in this movie at all, but they needed some kind of plot device to tie him in. We're 30 years after Peru, and he is rich. Somehow, from the spider powers, I guess. He goes to the opera, and he flirts with a woman and takes her home. And in the middle of the night, he dreams of the 3 girls killing him. This is the only time in the movie where they have powers. If you thought they were going to get them, like I did, you were lied to.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
He wakes up with a start and monologues to this one-night stand that he has the very same vision every night of these girls killing him. Just info dumping. Then he says he wants to track them using government surveillance, and she gets nervous because she works for the NSA, and she brought her key card and phone and everything with her in her clutch to the opera. So he gets her password and kills her with venom that comes out of his hands, I guess. Now his assistant lady has access to a Dark Knight style surveillance system, and they can find the girls. Except the only pictures of them are in his mind, but the pictures get into the computer somehow, and they track the girls. Also, this actor, Tahar Rahim, is not delivering a single line in this movie. His lips don't match up at all. He's a French actor, but his accent sounds like a French guy who's playing a South American guy whose second language is English.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
It's so bad. And they edit the shots so his mouth is not visible for the most part, but for the few frames that it is so clearly a dub. Now, Dakota and all three girls happen to be on the same train at the same time. How?
Because we're connected.
A series of stupid events happens, and they escape the bad guy, and they steal a car, and Dakota doesn't know what to do, so she drives them to the woods. And while they are establishing their personality archetypes, which is non-confident peacemaker, angsty rebel, and angsty science kid, one girl remarks that the bad guy was crawling on the ceiling, and it reminded her of a spider.
Light bulb.
That's the line. Dakota remembers that her mom was into spiders. That's crazy. So she leaves them in the forest and says that she'll be back in a few hours. She's a paramedic by profession. She finds a picture in her mom's journal that she's obviously read a lot of times, but never noticed this picture. It's the bad guy. What? I need to get some kind of chair in here so I can stick my legs in the air like I'm an anime character. Back in the forest, the girls bluntly exchange more backstory, but that only lasts like a minute, so they wander off to a nearby diner. It's now after dark, and Dakota is surprised that these three teens she just met that day didn't obey and stay put in the middle of the woods for hours.
You didn't see that coming?
She foresees everyone dying in the diner, so she takes a different approach, and they escape to a motel where a little more info dumping happens. The girls don't have parents because they are either too busy or they've been deported. Did you guess forced found family? Correct! Now Dakota has a name for the bad guy but doesn't really know what his motivation is. Luckily, that night, she has a vision / conversation / astral projection / info dump with the bad guy in a dream. He lays out his whole plan and tells her she was lucky he didn't grab her for longer and poison her more. She awakes and knows exactly how the poison works and instructs the girls that if she is poisoned, they need to do CPR. So they practice CPR for a minute. CPR combats neurotoxins.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
And this isn't the only time this kind of thing happens. For a movie whose protagonist is a paramedic, this contains so much incorrect medical terminology and practice. Once again, she needs to leave these kids alone so she can go to Peru, even though she is suspected of kidnapping these girls. She's gonna find out more about the spider and her mom and the spider people. But she leaves them with a coworker, not by themselves this time. Coworker Ben. No, not Ben Wyatt, that's Ben Parker. And his sister is pregnant with his nephew. They almost say his name, but then a balloon pops, so it's a mystery.
Peter! Peter!
She goes to Peru and just goes out into the jungle with her mom's journal and some old photos that she's just holding up, trying to match to where she is. And then one of the spider people finds her and says he's been waiting. He takes her to the sacred pool, or whatever, and he pushes her in, and she has flashbacks and gets all the info about her mom.
Water has memory.
Then the guy tells her that she has yet to unlock her powers and see into the future and be in many places at once. But she didn't get the strength or anything the bad guy got. Sucks to suck. She just gets to see the future. So it's like Paycheck or Next, except boring and awful. But he leaves her with sage advice. when you take on the responsibility, great power will come. You see what they did there? She gets back from Peru right as Ben's nephew, not Peter, is coming, and everyone has to go to the hospital. But the bad guy has just found them and there's a chase. But Dakota shows up just as they are about to die. She drives an ambulance through a concrete wall and rams the bad guy, but the ambulance looks okay somehow. The timing and the over-the-top quality of this scene reminds me of that James Bond scene where Javier Bardem planted explosives in a train tunnel and blows them up while being chased by Bond, and a train rolls through the hole just as he was about to catch up to Bardem. That's the kind of timing that we're talking about here. They escape to the same fireworks factory that was on fire earlier in the movie.
That's the old gasoline and match factory.
Dakota foresees they can trap the bad guy in the building. A bunch of bad CGI happens, she astral projects to save the girls, and he gets crushed to death in no way that looks like his visions. So it's a classic Kung Fu Panda situation.
One often meets his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it.
Dakota is also injured, paralyzed, waist down, and blinded, so this is actually an origin story for the comic-accurate Madame Web. In the hospital, we get the best line. A nurse pops in to ask if the girls are immediate family, to which Dakota replies, "They're mine." And then the nurse didn't really have anything else to do, so she just leaves because she was literally only there so that line could happen. We Are the Titans did this so much better. So there you go. The girls are insufferable and have no personality beyond cardboard cutout archetypes that they are assigned. They don't get powers. The bad guy is inept and was chasing after a made-up plot device Vision the whole time. The writing is god-awful. The CGI is horrendous. The shots are bland. There is literally nothing redeeming about this movie other than the fact that it got us to be a little entertained for a few minutes here, huh? If you have seen it, let everybody know what you think in the comments. I appreciate you watching as always, and I'll see you next time.